I went to the preschool to pick up my son. Ended up running into my ex. Before we could even catch up, my son walked out holding another kid's hand. That other kid made a beeline for my ex-uncle. My son made a beeline for me. Papa. My ex's face darkened instantly. He looked pissed, picked up his nephew without a word, and walked off. After that, I ran into him picking up his nephew all the time. I wasn't about to kiss his ass when he was giving me the cold shoulder, so I just nod a greeting and walk away. Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He blocked my path as I was trying to leave. Is Ian's alpha father that irresponsible? Why do I never see him picking Ian up? Before I could even get a word in, my son, mouth stuffed with candy my ex had bought him, mumbled out an answer. Uncle Julian, I don't have a daddy. I only have Papa. I ran into Julian, my ex from 5 years ago, while picking up my son. Before we could say anything, the class filed out. My son, Ian, was holding another kid's hand tight. I thought it was funny. He hadn't been transferred here long, and he was already thick as thieves with the other kids. I walked past Julian toward Ian. Ian saw me immediately. He turned to say something to the kid next to him, then turned back and ran toward me. The kid next to him ran too, diving straight into Julian's arms. Uncle. I paused. What are the odds? Ian hugged my leg, looking up at me with big, sparkling eyes. Papa. If I wasn't mistaken, Julian's face just went black. I looked away and picked Ian up. You look happy, Ian. Did you make a new friend? Ian's face was flushed pink. Yeah. He cupped my face and planted a big, wet kiss on my cheek, then pointed at the kid in Julian's arms. Papa, that's Luke. Luke was a bit shy, but he greeted me politely. Mister. The kid was so well behaved I couldn't help smiling. Hi there, Luke. Luke shyly buried his face in Julian's shoulder. Then, unable to resist, he peeked back out at me. I smiled and glanced over at Julian. His face was blank, like he didn't even see me. I felt a bit helpless. We had a peaceful breakup years ago. Why was he looking at me like I was his sworn enemy? Since he was Ian's classmate's uncle, I felt like I should say hello. But Julian just turned around, holding Luke, and walked away. Luke looked confused, but he still waved goodbye to us over his uncle's shoulder. I blinked, ignoring the weird feeling in my chest, and carried Ian toward the car to go home. Ian sat obediently as I buckled him in, gnawing on the pastry I'd bought him. Papa, that uncle looks really familiar. I drove and humored him. Our Ian thinks every handsome guy looks familiar. Ian wasn't having it. He swallowed his bread and argued back. No, I don't. He frowned, thinking hard for a few seconds, then added seriously, although, that uncle really was handsome. I laughed. This kid was a trip. Ian kept munching on his pastry and asked Papa, will I see that uncle again? I couldn't help grinning. This kid was such a sucker for a pretty face. But I shook my head gently. Probably not, buddy. Given Julian's attitude toward me, Ian was probably going to be disappointed. The reality was the exact opposite. After that, almost every time I went to pick up Ian, I ran into Julian. I had to admit he was a pretty good uncle, and Ian was an extroverted kid. Every time he walked out of the preschool holding Luke's hand, he'd beam at Julian and call him uncle. Look at him now, calling him uncle and running right into the guy's arms. Uncle, guess what? The teacher praised Luke today. His block tower was amazing. Luke, who I was currently holding, lowered his head shyly. Ian kept singing his praises. Really? Julian's attitude toward me was cold, but he was incredibly gentle with the kids. What about Ian? I bet the teacher praised you too. I watched the smile at the corner of Julian's mouth and felt a sudden daze. He really did look better when he smiled. Just like that, we ended up carrying each other's kids into a cake shop. It was a little weird, but harmonious enough. The two kids had agreed at school to get cake together, so we chaperoned them. What flavor does Ian like? Julian put Ian down so he could choose. Ian grinned. Uncle, guess what flavor I like? I put Luke down and asked him, what about Luke? Luke held my hand and pointed at a strawberry cupcake. I rubbed his head and took the cake out for him. Beside me, Julian paused for a few seconds. Vanilla. Ian wagged his index finger, looking smug. Uncle, you guessed wrong. I like chocolate. My expression didn't change as I held the cakes for the kids. Julian seemed like he had just taken a random guess. But then Ian piped up, "Vanilla is my papa's favorite." Julian nodded slightly. "Yeah, I know." The two kids didn't notice anything, but the atmosphere between Julian and me got strange. I wasn't sure what he meant by that. But Julian's attitude was clear. He didn't want to talk to me. I wasn't going to force it. I didn't say a superfluous word until we parted ways to go home. Julian put Luke into his car. He opened the door, stood there for a few seconds, and looked back at us. I grabbed Ian's little hand. "Ian, say bye to Uncle." Julian said goodbye to Ian, but he didn't leave. I sighed and turned to walk away. Julian finally spoke. "How have you been?" I took a deep look at him and smiled faintly. "Pretty good." I didn't see Julian much after that. It was a month or two later when I saw him again. Ian had invited Luke over to play at our house today. I intended to ask Luke's parent if it was okay for him to come over once they arrived. I didn't expect Julian to be the one dropping him off. I pressed my lips together. "Want to stay for dinner?" I was prepared for a rejection, but he agreed. When we got inside, I took a new pair of slippers out of the cabinet for them, since the shoe rack only had mine and Ian's shoes. Julian glanced at the shoe rack, put on the slippers, and came in. As soon as they were inside, Ian grabbed Luke and ran to his room, saying he wanted to play with his new toys. That left just me and Julian in the living room. He rolled up his sleeves and went to wash his hands, looking like he was preparing to cook. I thought about his kitchen disaster skills from the past and hesitated. Maybe I should do it? Julian shook his hands dry and gave me his first smile in months. I learned how to cook. He wasn't lying. He looked like he knew what he was doing, and more importantly, it tasted good. I was genuinely surprised and complimented him. "This is delicious." A faint smile touched the corner of Julian's mouth. I was in a surprisingly good mood as I went to call the kids for dinner. Knowing Julian had helped make the meal, Ian practically praised him to the skies at the dinner table. After eating, the kids played for a while longer before Luke had to go home. Ian pouted, insisting on walking the guests out. I chuckled. Ian pitter-pattered to the door to open it, then froze before rushing out. "Grandpa! Pops! You're here!" My dad and my stepdad, Ian's pops, lived in the same complex. Occasionally, they'd come over after their evening walk to see their grandson. Julian ran right into them. My stepdad froze, hesitating before speaking. "Julian?" Julian opened his mouth, eventually settling on, "Good evening, uncles." "Hey." My stepdad responded, looking at us, then at Luke, whose hand Julian was holding. "You too." I stepped in. "His nephew is Ian's classmate." Invited them over. Everyone exchanged polite pleasantries. Then I walked Julian out. When I came back, my stepdad frowned, looking at me with concern. "Asher, you and Julian." I knew what he wanted to ask, so I shook my head. "No, we just ran into each other by coincidence." My stepdad nodded, accepting it. They sat for a while before heading back. After tucking Ian in, I thought about what my stepdad said before he left. "Asher, it's been so many years. If you still like him, give it another try." I stared at Ian's chubby profile. Putting aside whether I wanted to or not, Julian probably didn't. Plus, I had Ian now. Would he accept a child that wasn't biologically his? 5 years ago, Julian and I broke up. There was no cheating, no principle-breaking betrayal, no screaming match. We were just too young and couldn't balance everything. We sat on the balcony and talked for an afternoon, and in the end, we parted ways. After the breakup, I threw myself into my life, working myself to the bone every day. Combined with my stepdad's poor health at the time, my own physical condition took a nosedive. Eventually, my stepdad ordered me to go to the hospital for a checkup. That's when I found out I had been pregnant, but the fetus had stopped developing over a week prior. I don't remember how I got through that time. Looking back, all I remember is numbness. Ian's arrival was what finally pulled me back. He was a tiny thing, abandoned next to a dumpster near the hospital. He was crying, but when I picked him up, he smiled at me. His health was poor, and I didn't feel right just handing him over to the hospital system. In the end, I adopted him, and I've raised him ever since. Ian rolled over in his sleep, grabbing my hand resting on the edge of the bed. "Papa." My heart turned into mush. "Forget it. I'll just let nature take its course."
Uncle Julian.
Ian was completely comfortable with Julian now. Julian scooped up both kids, one in each arm. "Hey Ian, Did you have fun at preschool today? Ian took the candy Julian offered, smiling so wide his teeth showed. He unwrapped a piece and handed it to Luke first. Ian is happy when he's with Luke. Julian teased him. You aren't happy being with Uncle? Ian happily sucked on the candy. When I'm with Uncle, Papa is happy. My mouth twitched, and I reached out to take him back. What nonsense was this kid spouting? Julian couldn't help laughing. Is that so? Ian hugged my neck, frowning as he thought about it. Yeah. When we're with Uncle and Papa together, Ian is happy. Julian didn't take Luke home immediately today. He glanced at me several times, looking like he wanted to say something but stopping himself. I sighed and asked, is something wrong? Julian pressed his lips together. Ian's alpha father is so irresponsible. He frowned after saying it, seeming to realize it sounded judgmental. He hesitated, then continued. Why have I never seen him come to pick Ian up? I had never told him about my current situation. Felt weird to explain that kind of thing to an ex unprompted. But before I could say anything, Ian spoke up from my arms. His mouth was still full of the candy Julian bought, so his words were mumbled. Uncle Julian, I don't have a daddy. I only have Papa. Julian froze, clearly not expecting that. Judging by his expression, he had probably already concocted a dozen dramatic scenarios in his head. I explained, I'll chat with you about it later when there's a chance. Julian put Luke into the car, then pinched Ian's cheek. Ian giggled and leaned his face forward. Asher, a new hot pot place opened nearby. You used to love that. Wanna go try it? It was an invitation. Ian's eyes darted around, and he answered before I could. We can, Uncle Julian. Since Ian is going to visit Grandpa this weekend anyway, Papa will be lonely by himself. I tapped his forehead lightly. You little rascal, aren't you going to ask if Papa wants to go? Ian grinned. He covered his forehead and looked at me. Does Papa want to go? I looked at Ian, then at Julian. I couldn't help laughing. All right, see you this weekend. The corners of Julian's mouth tilted up. He rubbed Ian's head. Ian, should Uncle bring you chocolate cake tomorrow? Ian didn't hold back at all. Yeah. When I got that little livewire home, he was still buzzing with excitement. I sat on the sofa and waved him over. Ian pattered over and flopped onto my knees. Papa. Seeing him like this made me laugh. I raised an eyebrow at him. You really? Like Uncle Julian? Hearing this, Ian extended a chubby index finger and wagged it. Copying someone from a TV show, he put on a look of profound wisdom. Papa, you don't understand. I was amused. This little bean sprout was telling me I didn't understand. I rested my chin in my hand. Then can Ian tell Papa what exactly you understand? Ian dropped the act, continued lying on my knees, propped his head up, and looked at me with sparkling eyes. Papa, I've seen Uncle Julian before. Now I was surprised. We had only moved back to the city a few months ago. How could he have seen Julian? He probably saw someone who looked like him. Seeing I didn't believe him, Ian used his hands to make a square shape. It was a photo. In that old tin box Papa keeps. As soon as he said that, I understood. My old photos were all kept in that box. He must have dug it out at some point without me knowing. I pinched his chubby cheek. You just like anyone handsome. Ian rubbed his face. No way. It's because Papa likes him, so Ian likes him. I blinked. Did I still like him? Probably. I kissed his little cheek. But Papa has you, and that's enough. Ian giggled and hugged my face. Ian just wants Papa to be happier. Seeing Uncle Julian makes Papa happy. Ian had always been a perceptive kid, but I didn't expect him to say something like that. My heart went soft. I really had found a treasure. I rubbed my forehead against his tummy. Ian Lin, why are you so lovable? Ian laughed and pushed me away. Papa, that tickles. After dropping Ian off at my dad's place over the weekend, I went to meet Julian. The restaurant was good. I put some vegetables into the pot. Ian hates vegetables when we eat hot pot. He only likes meat. Julian refilled my drink. No wonder he's so chubby. He looks healthy. I smiled and shook my head. Yeah. It's hard to imagine that when I first found him, he was half the size of a normal newborn. Julian paused. He asked hesitantly, Found? I nodded. Yeah, I adopted Ian. Once the topic was opened, we kept talking. We more or less caught up on each other's current situations. The only thing I didn't mention was the unborn child I lost. After dinner, Julian drove me home. He stood at the street corner and suddenly reached out toward my head. I didn't move, watching him quietly. He picked off a fallen leaf. A leaf landed on you. Thanks. He gazed at me, then shifted his eyes away. Asher, can we see each other often? I sighed internally. I didn't know he could be this reserved. Of course. Besides, Ian really likes you. What about you? Julian still didn't look at me. I opened my mouth, but Julian interrupted me. It's late. I should go. There was no answer to that question that day, but we both understood each other perfectly without saying it. We grew closer. He even helped me pick up Ian a few times when work got crazy. I stretched, finally finishing a recent project. I planned to buy some small cakes and pick up the kids when school let out. But the teacher called. Is this Ian's father, Asher Lynn? Ian had a conflict with another child at school. There are some scrapes, but we've already treated them. So please don't worry too much. We'd like you to come in so we can explain the situation and handle this together. Hearing this, I briefly communicated with the teacher, grabbed my keys, and rushed to the preschool. The teacher who met me led me to the office. Inside was a sturdy-looking boy. To my surprise, Julian and Luke were there too. As soon as I entered, I heard a parent I didn't recognize saying, "We are very strict with our child at home. He wouldn't bully classmates. It's this new kid. And his parents aren't even here at a time like this." Julian had his arms around both kids. Ian was cupping Luke's face, wiping away his tears. Hearing the woman, Julian's face went cold. Both of these children are mine. And there's surveillance footage. Didn't you already watch it? When I walked in, Ian immediately reached for my hand. "Papa." I squatted down to check him over. Just a scratch on his face. Seeing everyone had arrived, the teacher explained the conflict. It started because the bigger boy, Tyler, took Luke's afternoon snack. Luke was too scared to speak up, but Ian couldn't stand seeing his friend bullied, so he went to argue. Tyler had a bit of a temper and scratched Ian. They scuffled until the teacher stopped it. "Teacher, kids don't know any better. He just took a snack. Besides, our Tyler has been here a year without incident." Tyler's mom glanced at us. I frowned. Ian had only transferred a few months ago. She was implicitly calling Ian a troublemaker. Ian pouted. "No." Tyler snatched it. "Snatching is wrong. And he grabs other kids' blocks all the time. He does it a lot." I knew that if it were just snatching a snack, they wouldn't have called parents. I rubbed Ian's head soothingly and looked at the teacher. "Teacher, I assume you invited the parents because you understand the details of the situation, right?" The teacher nodded and explained the situation again. According to the video, Tyler indeed had a history of aggressively taking other kids' things. The teacher smiled gently. "Tyler's mom, please don't be nervous. We aren't trying to criticize Tyler, we just want all the children to grow up well." With things laid out so clearly, Tyler's mom had no choice but to make him apologize with a sour face. Tyler reluctantly apologized to Ian and Luke. Ian tilted his head and huffed, then bowed to thank the teacher first. Then he grabbed Luke's hand and started walking out. "Luke, let's go." I couldn't help chuckling at his big brother act. We exchanged pleasantries with the teachers, and I glanced at Julian. "Let's go." As soon as we walked out, we saw Ian holding Luke, declaring solemnly, "Luke, don't worry. I'll protect you from now on." Luke rubbed his red eyes, hummed in agreement and said, "But Ian, I think I'm older than you." Julian bumped my shoulder. "Those two are practically as close as we used to be." I blinked and turned to look at him. And just how close were we? Close enough for old feelings to rekindle, obviously. But neither Julian nor I took the initiative to take that step. We were both waiting, maybe for the right moment. "Hello? You're here? I'll be right down." I hung up, packed my things, and left the office. For the past week, Julian would come pick me up whenever I finished work. We'd go catch a movie or just take a walk. Then we'd go pick up the kids together. It was getting into autumn, and the weather was turning cool. Julian handed me the thermos he was carrying. I took it and opened it. Sweet red date soup? He used to make this for me all the time. I took a sip. Really good. Just as good as before. After a few gulps, I felt warm all over. I handed the thermos back, and Julian took it and drank from it without batting an eye. He held the thermos in one hand and used the other to naturally take mine. I didn't refuse. I let him hold it. Coming over for dinner tonight? Ian wants to show Luke his new toy cars. Julian smiled. Sure, I'll tell my sister. He continued, let's go grocery shopping first. I learned a new dish recently. Wanna try it? Sure, let's go. Pulled him along. After the supermarket, it was time for pickup. Hearing they could play together again, the two kids were giggling like idiots. Back home, Ian got the little slippers for Luke and dragged him straight to the bedroom. Since they came over so often, their slippers were now permanent fixtures on the shoe rack. I smiled helplessly and carried the bags of groceries into the kitchen with Julian. Julian took over the cooking again, so I helped wash vegetables on the side. I shook the water off the greens and set them aside. Julian reached for them at the same time, but he was watching the pot, and his hand pressed down on the back of mine on the counter. He froze and turned to look at me. What are you spacing out for? Seeing him motionless, I pulled my hand out from under his. Julian blinked, lowered his head, and leaned closer and closer. I didn't dodge. His kiss landed gently on the corner of my mouth. Ah! A gasp came from the kitchen doorway. I turned to look. Ian was covering his eyes with his hands. Ian didn't see anything. He claimed not to see anything. Yet he shuffled into the room step by step, hands over his eyes, walked to his mini fridge, and took out a box of cherry tomatoes. I just came to get tomatoes for Luke. Then he hugged the tomatoes and ran off. I looked at Julian helplessly. Julian just pecked me on the lips several more times. I pushed his face away. Julian, Asher, can you love me again? My face heated up. I wiped the water from my hands onto his face. You were so cheesy. Love was simple for the two of us. But there was Ian between us. I wanted our relationship to be formally confirmed with Ian, too, because he was the precious treasure I raised. This weekend, I picked Ian up and kissed him. Does Ian want to go out and play? Shall Papa take you to the amusement park? Ian's eyes lit up. He grabbed my face and planted a kiss. Really, Papa? Ian loves you the most. I put his favorite Ultraman backpack on him. Then I asked naturally, does Ian want one more person to come with us? Ian's eyes got even brighter. He adjusted his backpack and held my hand. Is it Uncle Julian? I laughed and nodded. Yes. Papa, wait a sec. Ian let go of my hand, grabbed several packs of snacks, and handed them to me. Papa, put these in your bag. They're for Uncle Julian. Seeing him like this made me happy. I packed the stuff and took him out. Julian was already waiting at the community gate. As soon as Ian saw Julian, he bolted toward him. Julian squatted down and caught him in a hug. Ian, are you happy to see Uncle? Ian nodded. Happy? Ha 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 ha. Good. Uncle is going to make sure you have a blast today. Julian pinched Ian's chubby cheek. With Ian there, the trip was full of laughter and chatter. The atmosphere was great. Ian played hard all day, only getting a little disappointed when he was too short for a few rides. Julian held his hand. Ian, when you grow up, Uncle will bring you back. Ian looked up at him. Will Uncle stay with Ian until I grow up? I blinked, squatting down to open the water bottle for him. Ian took it and drank obediently, patted his head. Does Ian want Uncle to stay with you forever? Ian didn't hesitate. Yes. The tension in Julian's face relaxed. He wanted to say something but stopped. I understood his hesitation. A kind uncle and a father figure, those were different things to Ian. I was about to speak when Ian's gaze fixed on something behind us. He gulped and tugged my hand. Papa, I want cake. I looked back. It was a cake shop. Julian picked Ian up dotingly. Let's go. Uncle will buy you cake. I followed the two of them inside. The staff were enthusiastic, inviting us to try samples. They were charmed by Ian's sweet talk. Hey there, little guy. We have a family discount. It's cheaper for a family of 3. Ian licked his lips, amused by the staff. He hugged Julian's neck. Daddy, I want everything the sisters talked about. As soon as the words left his mouth, both Julian and I froze. Ian stared at Julian with big, innocent eyes. Julian took a second to react, but he couldn't hide his smile. Okay, Daddy will buy it for you. Leaving the shop, we went to the restaurant we booked. Ian stared longingly at the cake. 2 adults stared longingly at him. I pinched his cheek to get his attention. Ian, you just called Uncle Julian Daddy. didn't you? Ian nodded. Julian asked him, is Ian really willing to let Uncle be your daddy? Ian's eyes were clear. He held both our hands. Yes. Then his little face turned serious. But, I asked, but what? Ian gripped Julian's hand tighter. But Daddy has to treat Papa well. I still love Papa the most. Julian hugged him affectionately. Okay. I love your Papa very much too. After communicating with Ian, my heart finally settled. Watching the two of them being so affectionate, I felt it was the happiest moment of my life. Later on, Julian moved in with us. Luke often stayed over, too. This place practically became his second home. Watching the two kids nestle together watching cartoons, I nudged Julian, who was behind me, with my elbow. Your sister doesn't mind you running off with Luke every day? Julian hugged me, resting his chin on my neck. Not at all. She's been busy as hell lately. She's glad I'm taking Luke out. I peeled an orange. What about Luke's dad? He doesn't mind you kidnapping his son? Julian sighed. His dad cheated. My sister is busy with the divorce and doesn't want it to affect Luke. I was surprised for a moment, looking at Luke's calm little face. Afraid I would worry, Julian kissed me. It's fine. My sister is capable and knows what she wants. She'll handle it. I didn't ask for more details, but Luke was such a good kid, and I really liked him, so I paid more attention to him after that. Seeing his mood remain high put me at ease. Luke was introverted, but whenever I hugged him, he would gently kiss my cheek. Uncle Lin, I like you. Every time I was overjoyed. Uncle likes you too. I hoped both kids could grow up healthy and happy. That was what both Julian and I wished for. My heat arrived. I woke up feeling my scent gland acting strange and my body burning up. I called my dad and asked them to pick Ian up from school and keep him for a few days. Julian had gone on a business trip 3 days ago. Dug out his clothes and made a nest on the bed. Even with the suppressants, only the familiar alpha lemon scent made me feel any better. I felt like I was becoming needy. I'd gotten through all these years on suppressants just fine. Why couldn't I handle it now? I couldn't focus enough to think. I buried my head in the bed, trying to extract those faint traces of pheromones. I didn't know if I passed out from sleep or exhaustion, but when I opened my eyes again, it was dark. I frowned and checked my phone. My dad said they had picked up Ian. Aside from that, there were several missed calls and a dozen messages from Julian. I was about to call him back when he called me. Hello? What's wrong? I tried to make my voice sound normal. Julian, however, wasn't so calm. The whole day of silence must have worried him. I rolled over and buried my face in the pile of clothes, my voice muffled. I'm fine. Just got too tired and fell asleep. Afraid he'd worry, I intentionally rambled about random topics. But hearing his voice for so long made me miss him. My gland hurt. My body hurt. I just missed him. Julian sighed. Baby, can't you just say you need me? As his voice fell, the bedroom door opened. The voice from the phone was now right beside me. Julian dug me out of the pile of clothes and gently picked me up. The release of lemon-scented pheromones brought instant relief. I couldn't help clinging to him tightly. I miss you. Julian kissed me, his thumb brushing over the back of my neck. The soft flesh of the gland was sensitive. The stimulation made my body shudder. Instinctively, I moved closer to Julian, baring my neck to invite him. Mark me. Julian brushed my sweat-dampened hair aside. He patted my back, neither light nor heavy. It's okay, baby. It'll be better in a second. Then his teeth pierced the fragile gland. My eyes trembled. The area that hadn't been filled with pheromones for so long was incredibly sensitive. But it wasn't enough. My starving gland wasn't satisfied with just this little bit. My whole body was burning, and my head was spinning. I reached out to tug at Julian's clothes. Julian grabbed my hand and pressed me into the bedding. His kiss fell, stealing the air from my lungs. His fingertips slipped under the hem of my shirt, undoing the buttons one by one. My pupils constricted. Sensing it, Julian bit my earlobe. Baby, you're so sensitive. The mutual attraction between Julian and me during my heat was uncontrollable. We basically spent the next few days indulging ourselves. The consequence was that I was utterly exhausted, sleeping like the dead in the end. When the heat finally passed and I woke up, it was dim outside. I didn't know how long I'd slept. Julian pushed the door open and placed warm water next to me. Seeing I was awake, He helped me sit up and put the water in my hands. Feeling okay. I drank the water and shook my head. Julian rubbed my head. Once we're fully awake, let's eat something. I nodded. Okay. After we eat, let's go pick up Ian. Julian walked out of the bedroom with me. He brought out the warmed food and placed a bowl of sweet red date soup by my hand. I'll go later. You rest. I smiled. I'm not that fragile. I want to take a walk anyway. After eating, we tidied up and got ready to leave. Julian was still in the bedroom. I called out to him to get moving. He came out holding a scarf. Julian wrapped it around me without leaving room for argument. It's cold out. Wear it. I couldn't help smiling and nodded obediently. I used to hate wearing scarves in winter because I thought they looked bad. He always had to force me to wear one. Julian held my hand as we walked out. Let's go. Let's get our son home. Winter was cold, but my heart was hot. As soon as Ian saw us, he sprinted over happily. Papa. Daddy. Afraid I was tired, Julian scooped Ian up. Ian was bundled up tight. The thick down jacket made him look even sturdier. I pinched his cheek. Did Ian gain weight? Ian frowned, shaking his head in disagreement. No way. I'm just wearing a lot. Grandpa made me wear 3 pairs of pants. Ian exaggerated his tone, holding up 3 chubby fingers. We laughed at him. After sitting at my dad's for a bit, we took Ian home. We walked slowly. Ian hadn't seen me in days, so his little mouth chattered away happily. Before we knew it, it started to snow. A snowflake landed on the tip of my nose. It was cold. In Julian's arms, Ian looked at me. Papa, come closer. Curious, I leaned in. Ian placed his hands on my face and Julian's face, one on each side. Papa, Daddy, my hands are warm, right? Now the snow isn't cold. My heart melted from the warmth. I planted a big kiss on his face. Papa loves you to death, baby. Ian giggled. His hands stayed pressed against our faces. Ian loves Papa and Daddy too. This winter might just be a little warmer than before.